words for the Star-Spangled Banner. Mitch Spurlock, a junior in the music department, will sing the Star-Spangled Banner for us. I would then ask you to remain for one moment in remembrance of the tragedies of 9/11 5 years ago. Mitchell. Please rise.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You may be seated. An agenda item every fall is welcoming new faculty to the family at Marshall University. We have an orientation program for new faculty put together by Elaine Baker and Frances Hensley, and I want to publicly commend them on the fine work they do on arranging that to welcome our faculty. To introduce the new faculty, I'm going to ask the Provost, Dr. Sarah Denman, to introduce the new faculty for us today. Dr. Denman.
Mitch, I don't know where you went, but that was wonderful. I have had the privilege for the last several years of hearing Mitch sing in a variety of different venues, from this to opera to others, and he is indeed a talented young man. Is he a student of yours, Larry? Yes. Okay. It is really a privilege to introduce our new faculty today, and as well I would like to introduce 3 new deans who will be leading colleges this semester on campus, well, this year on campus. And I was very happy when Larry called me and asked me to do this to say yes very quickly. I will first introduce the 3 deans. First we have Andrew Rogerson, who got his PhD from Stirling University in Scotland and is the new Dean of the College of Science. So when I say your name, if you would rise, that would be a good thing to do. Thank you. Rudy Pauley, who has his doctorate from West Virginia University and is the interim dean of the Graduate School of Education and Professional Development. And Tony Zawilski, who has his PhD from the University of Nottingham in England and is the interim dean of the College of Information Technology and Engineering. I will now begin with the colleges and naming the new faculty who are with them. As I say your name, if you would please rise and remain standing, and then when I finish with an academic college, let's give the faculty of that unit a round of applause. I'll begin with the College of Education and Human Services. Richard Abel has an MBA, and he is with the Exercise Science and Recreation program, Sport and Recreation. Keith Bowling has an MA, and he is with Exercise Science, Sport and Recreation. Eric Clopton, PhD, again with Exercise Science, Sport and Recreation. Michael Corrigan, PhD, School of Education, and Mary Mahango, PhD, Family and Consumer Science. Let's give them a round of applause. Please, come on down. It's like class, there are plenty of seats in the front. I'll now move on to the College of Fine Arts. Julio Alves, who is ABD for a DMA in music. Sarah Dowdry, ABD for a DMA in music. Hasan Harrison, MBA in the Department of Visual Art and Design. Marisa Main, MA in Art Education in the Visual Art and Design. Kathleen Mallett, Doctor of Musical Arts in Music. Turn my page here. Sean Parsons, Doctor of Music of Arts, Department of Music. And Brent Patterson, MA in the Department of Visual Art and Design. Let's give all of the new faculty in the college a round of applause. Moving now to the College of Health Professions. New faculty in this college are Amy Gannon with an MS in Dietetics. You arrived just in time. Jill Keogh with an MS in Nursing. Patricia McComas, MA, Communication Disorders. Elisa Parker with an MS in Nursing. And Tina Toller with an MA in Nursing. Let's give these faculty a round of applause. We move now to the College of Information, Technology, and Engineering. First new faculty is Patrick Cullen with an MA in Applied Science and Technology. Wael Zatar with a PhD in Engineering. Let's give these two faculty a round of applause. We move now to the College of Liberal Arts. It's a long list, and I'm going to do my best. Natsuki Anderson, PhD, Modern Language, Teaching Japanese. Kevin Barksdale, PhD, History. Keith Bell, MS, Criminal Justice. Eric Deltroll, PhD, Classics. Robert Drake, MA, Psychology. Shua Fan, PhD, History. Stephen Fink, PhD candidate, Psychology. Kevin Law, PhD, Geography. Julia Lewis, PhD candidate, Sociology and Anthropology. Ankadir McCowan, MA, Modern Language. Ryan McCullough, MA, Communication Studies. Paige Mueller-Leahy, PhD, Psychology. Carrie Nailing, MA, Political Science. Greta Resenbrink, PhD, History. Philip Rutherford, PhD, History. Kristen Neal Stover, MA, Psychology. Lisa Sturgill, MA, English. Anthony Viola, PhD, English. Christopher White, PhD, History. Let's give these faculty a round of applause. Moving to the College of Science, Joel Better, PhD, Mathematics. Chris Bircher, PhD, Biology. Thomas Jones, PhD, Integrated Science and Technology. Rob Roy Mace, MA, Mathematics. Shannon Miller, MA, Mathematics. Robin O'Keefe, PhD, Biology. Andrew Przeworski, PhD, Mathematics. And David Weidenfeld, PhD, Chemistry. Let's give them a round of applause. Moving to the Elizabeth McDowell Lewis College of Business, Maurice Lockridge, Ph.D., Accountancy and Legal Environment. Sheriff Sashiharan, Ph.D., Management and Marketing. Let's give them a round of applause. At Marshall University, Graduate School of Education and Professional Development, Samuel Secura, Doctorate of Education, Education and Professional Development, and Terrence Stange, Ph.D., Education and Professional Development. Let's give them a round of applause. University Libraries, Sabrina Thomas, an M.A., Information Services. Let's give her a round of applause. And in the W. Page Pitt School of Journalism and Mass Communications, Christopher Swindell, Ph.D., Journalism. And before I turn the microphone over to the School of Medicine, I would also like to introduce a new face on the Marshall campus, Dr. Barry Sharp, who's the Executive Director of the Center for Academic Excellence, if he would please stand. And I will now turn the microphone over to Dr. Gretchen Oley, who is the Senior Associate Dean for Clinical Affairs in the Joan C. Edwards School of Medicine and my personal physician.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce the new faculty members to the Joan C. Edwards School of Medicine over the past 12 months. Again, I'm not sure if everybody's here, but those that are here will stand, and you can please hold your applause till we get through the list. First, joining the Department of Pathology is Siraj K. Sigdal, M.D., residency in anatomical and clinical pathology at Northeastern College of Medicine, fellowship in surgical pathology from Case Western Reserve, and he's relocating from Parma, Ohio. Next is Charles D. Francis, M.D., he's joining the Department of Family and Community Health. He did a residency in ophthalmology at West Virginia University and is relocating from Charleston, West Virginia. Amy Albrecht, MD. She's joining the Department of Family and Community Health. She's finishing a residency at Marshall University Joan C. Edwards School of Medicine. Gregory Hendricks, MD. He's joining the Department of Orthopedic Surgery. He's finishing a family practice residency at Joan C. Edwards, Marshall University, and a primary care sports medicine fellowship at Marshall. James Day, MD, is joining the Department of Orthopedic Surgery. He has completed a residency at Louisiana State University and is finishing a trauma fellowship at Atlanta Medical Center and sports medicine fellowship at Atlanta Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. Zach Tankersley, DPM. Dr. Tankersley joining the Department of Orthopedic Surgery. He is finishing a residency training at the Western Pennsylvania Hospital in Pittsburgh and fellowship training in limb deformity reconstruction at Sinai Hospital of Baltimore. Andrew Marcus, DO. He's joining the Department of Orthopedic Surgery. He's finished a residency training in orthopedic surgery at Community General Osteopathic Hospital in Pennsylvania and is relocating from New York State. James Jensen, MD. He's joining the Department of Surgery. He did a residency in general surgery at UCLA Medical Center, fellowship in urologic oncology at the National Cancer Institute and NIH, a residency in surgery urology at UCLA Medical Center. He did a urologic oncology fellowship at the University of Utah Medical Center, and he's relocating from Salt Lake City, Utah. Abid Yaqub, MD. He's joining the Department of Medicine, finished a residency training at Marshall University, Joan C. Edwards School of Medicine, and a training and fellowship at Marshall University, Joan C. Edwards School of Medicine and Endocrinology. Christy Nowak, MD, joined the Department of Internal Medicine. She did a residency training at George Washington University Medical Center and relocated from Silver Springs, Maryland. Lyra Patel, MD. She's joining the Department of Internal Medicine. She completed a residency at West Virginia University Charleston Division and did a fellowship in endocrinology at Joan C. Edwards School of Medicine at Marshall. Mark Adkins is joining the Department of Internal Medicine. He just completed an MSN Acute Care Nursing Practitioner degree from St. Louis University. And Tracy LeGros is joining Rhetoric and Behavioral Health, finishing a Master's of Arts in Applied Psychology at Plattsburgh State University College. Those are the faculty who joined us in the past 12 months. If any of them are here, would you please welcome them? Thank you.
This begins the 20th year of Faculty Senate at Marshall University. Dr. Kopp has completed his first year as the president of our university and our leader. He spoke with us last October. He returns again today, September, to tell us how we're doing, to summarize and give us the guide for the future. Dr. Kopp.
Thank you, Larry, and I'd like to thank everyone who is in attendance here today for taking the time to share this afternoon with us and some time talking about the future of Marshall University and where we've come and where we're going. So, get things working here. The reason I've chosen to do a visual presentation is there are a lot of embedded files in this presentation that provide an opportunity for me to share with you what I think are some of the elements that we need to be working on, as well as some ideas to seed this process of not only looking at where we are today, but the opportunities that lie ahead for us. Many of you are aware of the premiere that will take place in December, the We Are Marshall film. I've actually seen the film. It is an extraordinarily powerful film that will, in many ways, I think, open tremendous opportunities and visibility for this university. It literally will put Marshall University on the global horizon and on the global map. And I think for many of us, it's truly an opportunity, both of a lifetime. It's a very historic premiere and event. It's one that I think, as we look ahead, offers us tremendous opportunities for growth, for advancement of this university in many different ways. And I'd like to kind of forecast some of this for you. Looking at where we've been, when I first got here, one of the first things I did was commission an economic impact study to get a sense of what Marshall's doing. And if you look at this, $500 million worth of economic impact annually is an enormous impact for a university on the community. We need to grow that impact substantially. If we look at faculty and student improvements, what's happened, last year we did a major increase in salaries, raise pool for both faculty and classified staff. Clearly we'd like to do more. New people have been added. There are many elements of growth and opportunity here. Current construction projects, and I'm going through this in a hurry because I'm going to spend time on other things. There are a huge number of projects that are finishing up, over $100 million in new construction going on in the campus and affiliated areas. Research funding highlights. Close to $40 million in grants, $42 million if you include the funding for buildings. The EPSCoR grant was funded, and we just recently announced a $2.7 million federal grant for a new center for biomanufacturing. Research commercialization. There are 4 new commercialization ventures that are spinning off. The last 2 will be announced in the near future. These are major steps forward in terms of what we need to do to help economic growth in this area. Regional and specialized accreditation has taken place on a number of levels. We'll see the College of Business coming up for accreditation this next fall, and it's going to be another very busy year for specialized accreditation. Strategic initiatives. This is where we came from during this past year. This is a process I want to remind you about because the process is dynamic and it's going to continue. Here are the elements of the signature initiatives that were developed during this past year of planning, and we're going to go through these on a much slower basis. I want to spend some time on these. A comprehensive plan for revenue stabilization and enhancement. This is the core and the key to the future. It's a matter of looking at how do we stabilize revenue and then how do we grow revenue, taking a look at all of these factors which deal with enrollment, full-time students, part-time students, residents, non-residents, transfer students, what we need to generate in terms of private sector funding, what we need to generate in terms of additional state funding, all part of a comprehensive plan to grow this university and to improve our overall revenue picture for the future. Some of the key questions that I think are important for us to examine. And some of this gets into a fairly substantial business vernacular, which usually is kind of outside the typical academic approach. But the truth of the matter is, if we're going to do the things we truly need to do to improve compensation for faculty and staff, we have got to pay attention to our students. We have to realize that with 29% of our overall operating revenues coming from the state, which means 71% comes from other sources, largely tuition and fees, that our tuition and our fee structure and our students are the future of this university. We are becoming more and more like a private university in terms of the mechanisms of funding. So we have to pay attention to student recruitment, we have to pay attention to student retention, we have to pay attention to graduation rates. These are all areas where we have opportunities for growth. We have to look at our enrollment capacity. Facilities. What do we need to do in the facility area to improve our capacity, either through our current facilities or through new facilities? What are those priorities, and so on? These are all questions that we're going to continue to address. What is our human resource capacity in the institution, both on the faculty side and the staff side, keeping in mind that if we grow enrollment, we're going to be faced with a dilemma. Do we add more personnel to the university? Do we try to improve the compensation package for faculty and staff who are currently here, or some kind of blend of both, which means that we will not be able to do as much on the compensation side as we would like if we add a disproportionate share of new employees to the university, either faculty or staff? Clearly, it's a matter of modeling this. It's a matter of working together on this to try to maximize, the term I use is net discretionary revenues, revenues that can be reinvested in people, facilities, and programs, because they're uncommitted at the present time. And that's a key strategic decision we're going to have to work our way through as we go through this process. One of the key steps that we have taken already was, and you should have seen this announced, was the Border State Scholarship Plan for non-resident students. This is a plan that's open to residents of the 5 states bordering West Virginia: Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia. Essentially for students who meet the academic requirements of a 23 on the ACT and a 2.75 cumulative high school GPA, they will receive a scholarship in the amount of $3,500. We're still working on whether it be $3,500 or $3,700, but it's a sizable scholarship that will bring their tuition down to what our current metro rate is for surrounding counties. We believe that this type of scholarship program will be a major incentive to allow us to be successful on a much higher level of recruiting non-resident students from the border states. We are fully committed to growing enrollment from West Virginia as well. This is part of a growth model. We're not taking non-resident students in lieu of West Virginia students. We want both. And this is a plan that's going to get us moving in that direction in a very significant way. We are also looking at scholarship programs for non-resident students outside the border state region. The second strategic or signature initiative was to grow our engineering program into a 4-year accredited engineering program. We are currently, and we've just received and closed the receipt of proposals for architectural design work for what we're referring to as an applied engineering advanced technology complex and development center. The current thinking is that the College of Information Technology and Engineering, the Center for Environmental, Geotechnical, and Applied Sciences, CEGIS, Department of Mathematics, the IP Commercialization Incubator Development Center, a state-of-the-art digital arts visualization resource center that will emphasize digital, spatial, molecular modeling, simulation, animation, and virtual reality environments, and the Center for Intelligent Transportation Systems Research, Training, and Development will be housed in this new complex. We are currently working through the issues of the funding, and as you'll see in a minute when I talk about the Wellness Center, the Wellness Center project was critical to be done as a public-private partnership because it's going to allow us to re-examine what we can do from a bonding perspective to move ahead on this very important academic complex. The third signature initiative that I'd like to share with you, and this is one that I'm going to spend some time on because I want to challenge the faculty to dig into this. I will mention that all of these slides are going to be available on the President's website, the entire presentation, with all of the hyperlinks and so on. I really encourage you to go to the site and study this and begin to develop your own ideas and thoughts and be prepared to discuss them, because I think all of these are critically important to our future. The Marshal Commitment is a concept that basically says we make a commitment to every single student who comes to Marshall University. Now, what is that commitment? In terms of what we've outlined here, and this again is a working document, is that a student who wants to finish a degree in 4 years, we're making the commitment that they can finish in 4 years. Students can currently do that. We're just simply formalizing it and, in a sense, dispelling the myth that you can't complete a 4-year degree here at Marshall. You certainly can. The concept of a student success plan is new. I'd like you to study it, share your thoughts and ideas, but the idea is to plan with the students and the students themselves taking ownership of their success plan for the future. Another element that we're proposing is a diverse and distinctive learning experiences, things like undergraduate research, international experiences, programs of study, and internships and co-ops. Interactions with faculty, we all know, are crucial to the success of students. Improving campus and community life, the Wellness Center can be a big part of that. Building community connections through such avenues as service learning. Improving career and academic advising and placement of our students. Attention to developing the whole person, which is what higher education has been for some time, and I think has lost its way in many respects. Foundations for life and career, and I want to talk about that in the context of a general education, a revised general education core. Value-added experiences, integrated interdisciplinary learning, and development of assessment rubrics. Let's take a look for a minute at the student success plan. This concept is one that basically commits to the fact that we're going to work, and each student is going to work out their own pathway to success in consultation with faculty and so on. One of the pieces that's in here, and I want to highlight it for you, is what we don't want to do is create another labyrinth of bureaucracy in this process of hiring a bunch of people that are going to be responsible for this. This is something that we need to develop and inculcate among our faculty and among our students as part of the normal way we go about doing things. But the core areas and foundations that I'd like you to think about, such things as rhetoric and composition. Here we're talking about language, vocabulary, communication proficiency, expression, argument in multiple forms, reading, writing, listening, speaking, using conventional and technology-based media. This is a core foundation in today's world. This lays out some performance goals and so on. I won't go through those. Another element is critical thinking. And we can talk about the other subcomponents, but there are many ways to define this. The challenge for us is how do we want to define and operationalize critical thinking and the foundations of critical thinking that we hold ourselves responsible for in the development of every single student who graduates from Marshall University. Scientific thinking. This is an important dimension in today's world and tomorrow's world. I think any graduate of any college ought to have the ability to think scientifically. Mathematical and quantitative thinking, another dimension. Technological thinking. Visual and spatial thinking. Information fluency, the ability to find, retrieve, analyze, utilize information, develop new knowledge, and the construction and deduction of new meanings. Intercultural perspectives. Ethical thinking. inventive and adaptive thinking, adaptability and the ability to manage complexity, curiosity, creativity, and risk-taking, higher order thinking, and judicious reasoning. These are presented not as final ideas by any means. I'm asking each of you to take a look at this, study it, think about it, and add to it or come up with your own ideas that we can begin to discourse about, debate if necessary or as necessary, and come together as a community to define the foundations of general education that we holistically hold ourselves responsible for and assert that every single graduate of this university will have whatever the level is we assign of mastery in those areas. Foundations for life and career. Some of this is really going to require us to rethink instructional design. And I think it begins by defining what high-level achievement actually is from the standpoint of significant thinking and learning gains. Once we have established the clarity of what we're trying to achieve, we need to understand what the progress indicators are that we're looking for in our students. What are the cognitive strategies that we need to involve our students in to develop that? What are the elements or standards of thinking that are involved in this particular domain? And what are the essential content foundations and conceptual foundations that bring this alive? Notice that this is pretty much the reverse of what happens in most situations where we start over here and work this way. I think it's important we work the opposite way as we think this through. The whole goal is to ultimately get to the most effective ways of involving our students in the learning process in a productive way. If we look at integrated and interdisciplinary learning, one of the observations I've made is that the thinking foundations and fluencies among the disciplines are generally shared. There's also a core set of thinking strategies and practices that are involved to ultimately begin to see the world from an interdisciplinary and integrative way rather than a discipline-specific way. It's not that the discipline-specific domains aren't important. It's important to then connect them to the other disciplines. In effect, what we're dealing with in the real world is a spider web phenomenon, not a linear or assembly line process. And this diagram is just simply intended to illustrate that. How do we connect our students to the richness of this multidimensional, interdisciplinary, and integrative thought process in the learning experience? And we have some people already pioneering this here on campus. We need more of it, in a nutshell. And then if we look at this concept of development rubrics and developing rubrics for what we're trying to accomplish, and I've chosen one domain, problem solving. And here what I'd like to illustrate is the fact that there could be more stages here than 4. I've just simply arbitrarily said we're going to break this down into four stages. And you could have a stage 0 where none of these or a few of these attributes are manifest in our students. Essentially what each of these elements under the stages represent is a longitudinal and vertical continuum of more and more sophisticated problem-solving skills and abilities demonstrated by our students. Now, I think for graduation at the baccalaureate level, it's unrealistic to think we're going to get every student to stage 4. But collectively, what we ought to be defining is somewhere in this domain here, we basically draw the line and say every student who graduates from Marshall University must be able to demonstrate some combination of these attributes in here, I would suggest, before we graduate them. In other words, we expect them to develop longitudinally as problem solvers. They come in relatively, presumably, unsophisticated as freshmen. And our challenge is how do we develop them if this is a domain that's part of our general education core that we want to see students progress and develop. Our challenge is to do this for every one of those foundational domains collectively, where we all understand what this means. Now, you might even add a grading rubric to this and say, well, somewhere in between here we can define what an A is for a freshman. And it seems to me that if we're talking about an A for a senior, we ought to be over here someplace in terms of what the student has demonstrated. A lot of this connects back to what one of the major questions around the country is, what do grades really mean in relation to learning and what a student can do? This ties it all together in many respects. It's not the answer, but it's an idea that I'd like you to consider, and let's work on it together and see how we come out of this. This is not going to get done in a year, I can assure you that, but if we work together, I think we can do this and do it extremely well. If we look at some of the other strategic initiatives, and I'll briefly talk about the piloting the Da Vinci Roundtable Project, the Renaissance Professor Program. This is a faculty development program that we're currently conceptualizing. Again, this is by no means done, but it's some ideas that we've come up with that I think are important to share. In a sense, what we're doing is redefining, in many respects, the role of faculty. They are the content experts. You are. There's no question. But we're also looking at faculty taking on the role as architects and engineers of integrative learning experiences. The instructional environment is crucial. The role of students changes dramatically in this process. They're no longer passive receivers of information. They're active in the learning process. All of these elements are critical to achieving the programming objectives down here. Again, this is I offer for your consideration and improvement. Advancing economic development has become the fourth leg of public higher education. We're no longer talking about a three-legged stool in public higher education. We're talking about a four-legged chair. Let me share with you the analysis that we've done. The Marshall Institute for Interdisciplinary Research, which I shared with you last fall, and I'll sketch out the information a little bit more here. We've done a 10-year and 20-year economic impact study, and I think it's important to realize that on a one-time investment, and what we're asking the state to do is invest $26 million in the Institute. We'll raise $10 million to take it up to $36 million. The economic impact over 10 years is, on the $26 million level, just under 800 new jobs in the area, and just under $20 million in new tax revenues. With a $36 million investment, we're over 1,000 new jobs, many of them high-paying jobs, most of them in the biotech sector, and over $25 million in cumulative tax revenues. As I presented this to the state, the combination of private investment with public investment will pay the state back its initial investment in 10 years or less. After that, the state's ahead, and so are we. If we look at the Institute concept itself, we're talking about people who will take appointments in the Institute on performance-based appointment contracts, where reappointment and extensions are merit and performance-based entirely. After 5 years, they're responsible for generating 50% of their compensation from contracts and grants from that point forward. They will have two major responsibilities: genesis of intellectual property with commercial potential, and involving undergraduate and graduate students in their research. The goal there is to prepare the next generation of entrepreneurial researchers. If you want to think about it this way, the goal is to involve as many students as undergraduates, graduate students, and doctoral students in the Institute as we possibly can through grants, contracts, and endowment support. Every student that we retain through the doctoral degree as a postdoctoral fellow or research associate is a person who can add to the economic growth and development of this community and this state. In a sense, this institute becomes a repository for highly trained, highly skilled people who add not only intellectual value, but economic development value to this area. Instead of having to recruit people from outside, we would look internally to hiring the next generation of professors, because this program continues to generate new positions every 5 years. You start out with 9 fully endowed professorships. In 5 years, you're at 13. By 20 years, you're close to 40 positions, each one having close to 8 to 10 people working for them. It's a lot of people to put to work on behalf of this area. Excuse me. As we look at new degree programs, I think it's important that folks in this room, as well as across campus, begin to look at what are the opportunities that we have for new degree program growth and development. Where's the future? Where's the present? What can we build on that's already successful, for instance? I mentioned professional master's and doctoral programs. They could be undergraduate degree programs, too, that we ought to be focusing on. The goal here is to add students, to increase the human intellectual capital that's available here, create greater public value, and improve the net revenue of the university, which gives us the tools to do other things in terms of program investments in people, and so on. I'm not going to go through each of these centers, but there is information up on the web about each of these centers. This is not an exhaustive list, nor do I think we have the capacity to develop every one of these centers. But we ought to develop some of them. We have tremendous aggregate resources here on this campus among our faculty and within the resource infrastructure we have to develop certainly some of these to a very high level, and in that process move Marshall University to the forefront in some of these areas. I want to spend a little time on the STEM Academy. You've probably heard a little bit about this. And the STEM Academy is a joint effort between the K through 12 sector and Marshall University. Marshall University is taking the lead on this. And the focus is integration with 21st century skills, professional development, teachers primarily, content knowledge and clinical experiences, academic enrichment that will go directly to students, develop a research clearinghouse, and then a liaison. It will serve as a liaison to external organizations. Rosalind Templeton, Dean of the College of Education and Human Services, Stan Maynard, who heads up the Harless Rural Education Center, are leading this effort, but this effort is not limited to the people I mentioned. This is a program that's designed to improve the caliber of learning and foundations that high school students come to college with, especially in the math and science areas, but also emphasizing foundations in the technology and engineering areas as well. As we look to the future, that will be very important for our engineering program, and I think it's going to be very critically important for the overall future of the state of West Virginia. The Student Health and Wellness Center, you've seen a lot of play in the paper about this. The concepts that I saw the HD this morning, those are concepts. There's no decisions that have been made about what's going to be in that facility or where it's going to be located and so on. We're at the stage where we've gone through an RFP process. That RFP process produced 8 proposals from different firms around the country. We evaluated all of them very thoroughly, very carefully. Capstone Development, by far, was the top choice of the selection committee. They have strengths in all areas, tremendous experience. They are the leading firm that does this private-public partnership work around the country. We're very pleased that they were one of the bidders. In the process, we still have programming decisions that need to be made, and that's where you come in. There will be a survey that will go out to faculty asking about your preferences or what you think ought to be in that facility, the wellness center, as well as the residence halls and so on. I encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity to share your thoughts and priorities. That facility will be available to you. Memberships will be available for faculty, and we're going to price them as low as possible to make it advantageous for family membership and individual memberships. The concepts that are currently being worked with, this is one layout, and this is by no means finished, but it gives you a sense of some of the programming that will be in there. An aquatics area, whether it will be lane swimming or other kinds of things, is still yet to be determined. There'll be locker rooms for men and women. Whether we're going to have 4 basketball courts or 3 is yet to be determined. There's actually 5, although this is a multi-purpose gym. There's 2 multi-purpose rooms, meeting areas and office areas, general storage, mechanical, and this is another recreation area. It's a 2-floor facility as it's currently conceived. The second floor has a jogging track in this current concept, racquetball courts, multi-purpose room, fitness center. This is where all the weights, treadmills, and other things are going to be in this concept. We need your ideas. We need your input. The students will definitely be surveyed on this very thoroughly. We want to know what they want in their recreation center as well. So this is an opportunity to be active in this. This is as much, in my view of this, is a campus asset, a university asset. Students will be the principal users, but there are other aspects of this that I think will touch all of us. We're looking for community spaces in this building because students tend to be very social, so they want to get together in places and so on. We think there's an opportunity to grow the intramural sports program on campus, provide an enriching campus life experience for students here on campus that goes way beyond what we currently can do. And so this is a very critical facility. The last one, I'm not going to hyperlink to that, but we definitely need a comprehensive plan for funding major renovation projects and other construction projects that I haven't talked about. This hyperlink here is the website where this presentation is posted. It's just simply marshall.edu/president/presentations.asp. If you can, I think it'll probably be on the front page for a while. So I encourage you to go ahead and download it, take a look at it. This is where it is. This is what it looks like. You go under the presentations, click on that, and then just click on this, and you'll have full access to the presentation. If we look at the expected outcomes down the road, and we're looking at a plan that's going to be a multi-year process and commitment on every one of our parts, I think it's absolutely critical that we begin to start thinking about Marshall University as a distinctive residential destination university, a place where students want to come because what's here? The faculty who care about the students and work and nurture and develop them, the facilities that are here, the programs that are here, the majors and so on. And that, to me, is one of the most crucial transitions that we really have to make. I can give you an example. Less than 50% of our freshmen live on campus when they come here. We need to get that number up over 75 to 80% over time. And when that happens, you're going to see a campus that's alive on the weekends, that's alive every day in many ways, far more than it is right now. It's alive now, but we need to see that grow and develop. And that's going to happen as we begin to move in this direction. Well, if we talk about what do we mean by distinctive, I'm thinking of as a university of choice. This is where students want to come because of the opportunities here that they see that connect to their futures. The Marshal Commitment, I think, is going to be crucial to that process. I think we have to look at creating higher expectations and raising the bar in terms of how do we customize learning experiences? How do we utilize technology, for instance, to take that student down a different path but to get to the same outcome? Theory application of theory experiences are very powerful learning experiences. We need to be able to verify the outcomes. We need to grow the campus so that it's a fulfilling campus environment for community and life. And then we have to be able to demonstrate the learning and development gains that we assert are commensurate with an earned degree at this university. If we talk about what a destination campus or university looks like, and this is just simply an illustration, it's going to require a sustained, systemic, long-term commitment. It's going to require leadership, not just from me, but from the faculty and from others throughout the university. It's characterized by consequential student-faculty interactions, the role of faculty as designers and architects, commitment to diversity and inclusiveness, and a commitment to institutional improvement, this aiming for perfection, where we continue to drive ourselves to continually get better and better. The environment has to be inclusive and supportive, quality of opportunity for learning for all, challenging expectations, where we challenge our students and then support them and nurture them through this process. We need modern learning spaces, an integrated ITIS platform that can help make that happen. So whatever you want to do in the classroom with your students, whether you consider it a classroom, a learning studio, whatever term you want to use, that those resources are available to you. We need to see ourselves as an integrated organizational entity. Rather than having vertical organization, we need greater horizontal integration. And we need to get our students actively involved in their education and learning, and involve them in formative learning experiences that are transformative. Whether it happens here on this campus all the time is irrelevant. We have tremendous opportunities to link internationally, to provide students with international experiences, other kinds of experiences that truly transform the lives and futures of our students. That's my definition of a destination university, and I'd be interested in what yours is. This is all part of who we are and what we're all about. To internalize learning and student-centric education as part of this university, we need to think about the university in its totality. It starts with the students. The mission and values need to align, which they do for the most part. Instruction and course design needs to have that student-centric and learning-centric focus. Student and residence life needs to be integrated into this arena. Co- and extracurricular activities and events also need to integrate as part of this fabric. Services across the university, everyone who comes in contact directly or indirectly with a student influences the retention and persistence of that student. Everyone is involved in this process. And then our policy and operational frameworks need to emphasize success of the individual student. The strategic site that we set up last year is still there. We're still taking ideas. This site will remain active well into the future. This is a process about getting people energized and involved in the future of this university. This is your university. It's the university of our students. I'm deeply committed to moving this university forward in every way, shape, and form. I care deeply about this university, our people that are here, and our future, and I will do everything I can to make it happen. With that, I'll stand for your questions. What questions do you have?
I've got a question.
Okay.
Do you look at Marshall University as compared to other colleges around the United States, and say worldwide, and say, well, they're doing this, or we're doing that, or how do we compare ourselves to other colleges?
We do benchmark the university, and we do compare ourselves, yes.
I was just wondering, because I would like to see this college, just keep up, maybe surpass.
I think that's all of our goals. We'd like to move ahead and surpass institutions that we see as regional competitors, or at least regional comparators. And I think one of the areas where we have one of the great advantages, we still are a university where freshmen come in and experience small class size configurations for many of their courses. We don't have, to my knowledge, a 600-seat lecture hall on this campus, unlike many other universities. So there's a far greater opportunity for our students to get to know the other students in the class and also get to know their faculty member very well. And that's something, it's an area of strength that I think we can build on and continue to celebrate and champion. If I had to critique some of the things that I'd like to see us do better, we don't tell our story anywhere near as well as we need to. There are amazing things that happen here, and there are amazing people here that we just don't talk enough and tell enough about to the publics that we serve. And that's an area where we simply have to do a much better job. Other questions? Yes? question is, where's the Wellness Center going to go? I can't give you a definitive answer. I can tell you where we're thinking about right now, only because we're still moving things around and trying to figure out 20 years from now, is that still going to be a good location for us? Let me take you back a little bit from the history of the campus. If you look at the history of this campus in terms of facility, academic facility development, you notice that the Hodges Hall, what used to be the dining hall between Hodges and Laidley, which is now the Community Technical College, really was the eastern perimeter of the academic core of Marshall University. Athletic facilities began to develop east of there, and other facilities as well. If you begin to now look at the campus and saying, based on where the stadium is, some of the other things they're developing, you begin to look and say, you know, that academic corridor and residential corridor really has a natural boundary today at 20th Street. And so you begin to start saying, maybe the Wellness Center ought to be the capstone building, the signature building on the eastern perimeter, and we ought to be looking east for further athletic facility development, and then hold that core for future academic building development and residence hall development. And these are conversations we're having. There have been no decisions made because we want to make this decision on a fully informed basis. And some of this is to ask the question, which of the current buildings, in all likelihood, if we can afford it, won't and shouldn't be here 10 years from now, because we need to replace those facilities. From an infrastructure point of view, they're not worth rehabbing. And one that sticks out right away, and it's not 10 years, is Hodges Hall, which begins to open up an east-west corridor and green space for the center of the campus. And we're continuing to work this and discuss it. And, you know, as I've said to people, until there is a recommendation that goes to the Board of Governors, which is totally public, all you're seeing in the paper are ideas and concepts that are being kicked around, and we're talking about them. And obviously, if we were to use the Lefty Rollins Field for the Wellness Center, there are some other things that begin to ripple off of that, so we're currently looking at what options we have for other facilities and capabilities. Yes? Well, as I've said before in terms of looking at this, I'd like to understand how we got there. And I'll give you an example. When I was at Ohio University, we dealt with a similar problem. And it turns out that one of the contributing factors to a very substantial, I would say about 70% of the compression problem that existed had to do with one college. It was the largest college, arts and sciences, in the way they implemented raises. They gave straight dollar raises to their faculty. So the highest, most meritorious professor got the same pay raise dollar-wise as an assistant professor with the same performance evaluation. On a percentage basis, it was a much, much smaller increase for the full professor than the percent that the assistant professor received. And we did a very thorough and very comprehensive analysis of the origins of the salary compression that existed there. I would do the same study here to find out how we got where we are. And you have to deal with it on a macro level. When you start getting individualized to individuals, in my opinion, you get away from really understanding the origin of the problem and how you can possibly fix it. What we ended up doing to correct the problem was to go back. You know, some of it. So one of the other contributing factors were that faculty, when they were promoted to associate and full professor, had no promotion increment at the time that they were promoted. They never got that. And so we figured out a system and a plan that proved to be very equitable and very fair. And if we're going to do anything about it, those are the types of approaches I use. And I just simply have not studied it thoroughly enough to understand how we got where we are in various areas. It's not an answer to your question, but that's the way I approach things. I would study it and analyze it and be able to answer those questions before I would go forward with a plan to solve it. Yes?
Continuation of this, okay, you've been here a year, you've not had, I informed you about this problem before you joined the university. Is there a timeline of action that you can tell us as to when your historical study will be over and some corrective action taken, or is it one of those things that is on the back burner for you?
I wouldn't say it's on the back burner, but right now it's not on the front burner. As I'm working through some of the things that I'm trying to do with new facilities, new program development, and so on, trying to grow the university, because we can do the study, and I can tell you right now, we do the study, we come up with a plan, we still need the dollar resources to fund it. Well, I couldn't implement the plan without the dollar resources to make the plan whole. What's your plan?
I'll come and tell you if you like.
Okay, I'll be happy to talk to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Beyond the fitness and welfare center you spoke about, you didn't really discuss very much about other capital improvements. However, I think it was last spring, there was an article in the front page of the Parthenon regarding a sale to the university of about $2.5 million of the site directly across the street on Third Avenue.
The old Weiler Steel?
Yes, exactly. I'm wondering what exactly is being planned for that chunk of real estate?
The engineering complex will go over there. That's the current thinking. The proximity, the development center and the engineering complex. Proximity to the biotechnology facility is perfect for that. The integration of those two programs, it's a natural fit. It was the reason we acquired that property.
And this will, of course, give us access to the riverfront, so are there any plans for expansion?
We don't own all the land back to the river. Steel, West Virginia does, if I remember correctly. We'd be nice to get access to the river through there, but we don't own all the land back to the river. It'd be nice if we did. That's the current thinking in terms of the use of that land. Yes?
In regards to the strategic plan, whether it's on a one-year basis, 3 to 5, 7 to 10, or beyond, how involved are students in assisting in trying to come up with ideas, suggestions, or even comments to try to improve the campus and what? And the other question is, in regards to that, would you want to have more student commitment in the future?
Absolutely. The students, as far as I'm concerned, can be as involved as they want to be. I work closely with student government, hear their points of view, take into consideration their recommendations, but do we need more of that involvement? I think so. Absolutely. Liz? In what respect? The STEM Academy in what respect? I'd like to see it. The question is, what's the vision 10 years from now for the STEM Academy? I'd like to see it be statewide. I think in that context, it's probably going to be more of a virtual academy statewide with sites that revolve around something that I'd like to see us think, and I've talked with Rosalind and others about this. If you take a look at the Math and Science Academy in Aurora, Illinois, as a blueprint for what can be done in a Math and Science Academy, that is a very, very strong and compelling model in terms of what can happen. I would like to see us, in partnership with the state, the K through 12 system, begin to look at either magnet schools or some type of arrangement where we can unfetter the schools to really do the things that need to be done, and we would be a partner in that, assisting that process. Now, maybe that becomes only one of those schools in the entire state, but maybe it's more. We'd have to figure out what the state can do as a partner and whether we can get enough external support to keep it going. But I can tell you in Aurora, Illinois, that Math and Science Academy draws people from all over to go to that school. It's the most desirable high school to go to in the state of Illinois. And the kids coming out of there are phenomenal. Yes, sir.
You talked about some pretty significant changes in the roles of faculty members and the roles of students as well. I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you see that actually unfolding.
Well, I'd like to look at a faculty development program that is owned by the faculty. In other words, it's a program that you endorse individually and collectively, that this is a program that can help you get where we need to go. We have, I think, already a program with the Center for Academic Excellence and so on, but the question is, what are the needs of the faculty? What transitions need to be made, and then how do we go about making them? I see this as a partnership. It's not forcing it on faculty, it's drawing faculty into the process where you're taking ownership of it and driving it. That's what I'd like to see happen. Yes? We're planning on them. That's what we budgeted. We're waiting for the final enrollment figures this year so we can refine, if you will, the budget plan. The other thing I should mention is that I've asked senior staff that we begin to move towards a 3-year budget plan off of a 1-year budget plan cycle, because ultimately I'd like to get to a 5-year budget planning and modeling process. We need to be looking out longer term than a year in terms of what we're doing, and I think it's very critical, and we're ramping up to that process now. We've spent a lot of time working also with the foundation, trying to mobilize, if you will, a greater integration of things that the foundation can help us with. And so there's a lot of different dimensions of this that we're working on. Yes?
As we are renovating and doing new buildings, is there any consideration of say, the aesthetics or from public art? We have some very functional buildings on campus, but there's the consideration to
Well, the question is there any, as we renovate and as we add facilities, is there any consideration being given to art in those facilities? I don't think the state has a percentage for arts, as some states do in capital projects. But I think there are things that we can and need to do with respect to enhancing, shall we say, the aesthetics and visual, if you will, enrichment that art brings in various facilities. We have some funds left in the biotech building construction that I've asked some folks to take a look at, because what I'd like to see in there as you come in the front door, instead of what's there, put a video cube wall on that wall and use it as a canvas for our students and for our faculty to tell the stories about what's happening in the various research areas around campus, biotech, biology, science, what have you. But also to have it be a medium for our digital and graphic arts students, and any student who wants to learn more about doing that, it then becomes a creative canvas for them to display their work. As I've shared this idea with people, it's kind of taken root, because now you're taking a science building and enriching it with artistic expression. And to me, that's a powerful combination if you're trying to stimulate creativity. And those are the types of things I think we need to be doing around campus. Plus, from the standpoint of students visiting the campus, high school students, you walk in there and begin to catch what's happening here. The next question out of your mouth is, how do they do that? What are they doing? What is biomanufacturing, or whatever is up there? And suddenly you've got them hooked. So it becomes a great recruiting tool for us as well. But it's also a form of expression, creativity, an outlet, if you will. And I couldn't agree more with you. We need to find more of those opportunities and make those things happen. Yes?
I know the STEM Academy is part of probably your answer, but I'm in schools a lot, secondary schools a lot. Most of his family are teachers and all that sort of stuff. Marshall's just not talked about. And I visit schools in all southern West Virginia on my own time. And maybe there's a bus trip when I go up to Marshall. But most of those kids in southern West Virginia don't believe they can go to college. So they don't get on a bus to come up with to walk around campus because they don't think they can do it. They can't afford it. So how do we increase our presence, Marshall's presence in those schools? We have to go there.
I couldn't agree with the comment was that in southern West Virginia, his experience in the schools has been that kids there aren't even thinking about going to college or don't know about Marshall University. I mean, I've heard that a lot. And, you know, I think your conclusion, do we need to go visit them, is the answer, yes. And when I talk, and I'm not trying to make everybody in this room a recruiter, but we all need to realize that every opportunity we have to talk about the opportunities here at Marshall University to connect a high school student or even a junior high student with the aspiration of going to college and why that's important for them, we need to act on that every time we have that chance. So if you happen to be visiting, you're talking to somebody, talking about the university can be extremely positive. It might open a door or connect to somebody who might not have thought that was a possibility. In the larger context, we have to be more visible throughout the state. And it's all about relationship building, cultivating and stewarding those relationships, helping counselors, teachers, and family members connect to the opportunities here. And it's about telling our story, telling it well, but also every one of us being a communicator and a storyteller about what happens here. We can all play a role in this. Yes?
Centers you talk about, I find them interesting, but I'm in Jenkins Hall and there's not a spare closet to be found. And I'm wondering, how would we, is it all, are all the virtual centers of excellence you're visualizing? Or, you know, if we develop a center for excellence coming out of education, school, you know, is it possible for a building somewhere to materialize? Are the footprints, you know, set aside for those centers to develop? Because a center like that could do the mission you're just talking about with this gentleman. But, I mean, without the space to actually organize it, we're all trying to organize it on top of our schoolwork and research.
Well, I think right now we're probably looking at, you know, more of a virtual rather than a physical reality, but I think as we focus on which of these centers we really ought to dedicate the university to, and as I pointed out, we can't do them all. There are too many on the list. But we want to focus on centers that build on existing strengths, and each one of these, you can make a case for it. And then, what are the facility needs to bring that center to its highest level? And begin that process of planning. My view of this is, and I'm just going to be real blunt about it, if you don't have a vision for the future, or you have a vision but you're not willing to act on it, you're really talking about a daydream. It's nice, sounds good, but really not committed to it. When you have no vision but you act, all you do is create nightmares. This process is about vision and it's about action. And that action just isn't me. It's all of us working together, focusing on those priorities that we all agree matter most for the future of this university. It may not be your college this year or next year, but 2 years down the line, you're number one and we're going after what we can do there. And realize everybody's not going to be number one. It just doesn't work out that way. But the benefits of improving here and advancing here affect all of us and improve all of us. And we have to see ourselves in that collective mindset of working together to make these things happen. I shared with somebody the other day, you know, I stopped counting at $500 million of infrastructure needs on this campus. At that point, it was like, yeah, there's a lot that we need to do. But in the process, we need to prioritize and then just keep moving on this and commit to the long term, that this is a long term, it's a journey. And we're in this together, working together, we can make a lot more happen than if a few of us try to do everything we can. I'm here to help you. I'm here to do everything I can to make it happen. And never is not in my vocabulary. I can't tell you how many times I've been told in my career, it'll never happen. And it does happen. And the experience I've had here at Marshall in a little over a year is, yes, we have to work harder than a lot of other people. And yes, the world is unfair and it's inequitable. And that's just the cards we're dealt. Now, let's move on. And let's work our tails off. Let's outwork, outperform, and outplan the other folks around. And it's going to be pretty hard to stop us. Because right now we've got a lot of momentum, very positive momentum, a lot of energy. It's positive that we can build on. To me, that's a very powerful foundation. Yes?
It's clear as part of the plan that faculty will be working together across disciplines. What structures, what ideas do you have for helping us find each other? I look around this room and I know that there are probably 10 or 15 people who are working on something that I would be excited to join, but I don't know what they're doing.
Well, that's a great question. The comment was, it looks like in the future we're going to be working together more and more across disciplines. How do we find each other? How do we get together? And that's just a tremendous question. One of the approaches I've found that works exceedingly well are faculty learning communities, where people gather because of a general area of interest, not because of their discipline. So for instance, let's suppose you had a group of faculty, 7, 8, 9 faculty, who wanted to get together and work on improving critical thinking in their courses that they work with their students with. You could get faculty from any discipline around the campus together to work on something like that, and in the process, build relationships, make connections, and so on. Another one is having faculty work together on an interdisciplinary course and set up the parameters and the faculty development time, which is crucial. Emory University did this about 5 years ago, where faculty from very different disciplines got together and put together an interdisciplinary course. And in the process, discovered an awful lot about themselves, about the person they were working with, and came away from it incredibly energized. What Emory did is they picked mid-career faculty who were kind of, in a more, as they described it, more of in a routine and a rut. And this absolutely re-energized the faculty that participated. So my point is, there are ways to do this. There are ideas out there. I would like your input on this. What do you think would work the best? And we'll put something together and we'll figure out what is it going to cost, and we'll try to find the funds. And I'll commit to you, I will find the funds. This is too important to the future of this university not to make it a priority. Good, good. You have a list of ideas? Great, I'd love to talk to you about it. Please. Yes?
Yeah, just to come back to facilities for a second. You mentioned, I was quite excited about the idea of creating spaces that inspire creativity and entrepreneurial sort of thinking. And there are facilities projects underway right now. I'm thinking of Smith Hall. Is there an attempt to integrate some of this into those projects? And secondly, is there a way that faculty who are going to be living and working in those spaces can be involved in that?
It's a great question. Let me get back to you on that. But I don't know what's actually been planned there. I haven't seen the details, but I'd be very interested in talking to you about it and hear your thoughts in terms of how we can do this. Because I know the Smith Hall renovations are ongoing. So if you wouldn't mind making some time, I'd love to sit down and chat with you. Sure. Yes?
There's a lot of mention of different areas working together, and one really cheap way to do that would be to have the university develop a website clearinghouse for faculty that wants to work together. In other words, you can just send in your requests, and it would be cheap to do that, and we can find out if it exists.
The concept is that we could have a clearinghouse on the web for faculty who are looking to work with other faculty from other disciplines. So it's kind of a clearinghouse, opportunities, make the connections, see if it's going to work out. It's a good idea. Well, to be honest with you, the sexy new projects are the pathway to the future, and without them, we're going to be mired in the past. And there will be no opportunity in the future, in my opinion, without them. And it's not about sexy projects. It's about listening to what students tell you they're looking for in a university. And the truth of the matter is, I haven't heard a single complaint from a student about the issue you're talking about. I have certainly heard in spades the importance of this wellness center to the future of this university. And that's how I choose things. I listen to students, and they tell me. Other questions? I know Larry has a presentation. I don't want to take all his time. Larry, you're up.
President Kopp, the faculty are poised to be part of the solutions at Marshall, and we are pleased that we are asked for input. There has been a feeling in the past that sometimes the input was ignored, and so I have to state that if you ask for input and it's given, that it be considered, because we do have a talented faculty. As one faculty member said, if you take the IQs of the 725 faculty, why would any institution ignore that intellectual capital that is available to them and to do their own way? I want to summarize very quickly what I have received from the faculty on the emails that I sent out on strengths and weaknesses and so forth. Okay? This is my 4th year to do this, and I can tell you it's the same thing. Okay? The strengths of the university are the talented, highly trained, very caring faculty. Okay? The students who come to learn, and they basically are very much appreciative of the opportunity to learn. Also, faculty commented on the positive, friendly work environment, the collegiality with the faculty. Weaknesses, as Joe pointed out, okay, number one weakness is low salaries. And even if we catch up with something, you're still behind because we were so far behind to begin with. And so that is a problem. It's a problem with recruiting new faculty. It's a problem with retention. When we come in with faculty inversion, it's an insult to the faculty that have served the university for a long time. Benefits, as you know, we keep paying more for PEIA, you get less. Okay, we don't have dental, we don't have eye, we don't have anything that we didn't have 20 years ago. We are very appreciative to the legislature and the people that fought for the AEI. That's the first thing that we have received recently. The teaching load is a problem. We do have a flexible faculty load policy, but it's not really an enforced policy. It is not there because it's not funded. But we have continuous, I'm just saying the same thing you've heard before, and some of these comments came from your responses. The teaching load. We're asked to do more and more service, more and more research, more and more publication, plus do the teaching and the advising, and just how many days do we have? This creates low morale among faculty when they don't see an end to it. Lack of funding is always a weakness around here. And as I say, faculty are still frustrated that they're not being heard. Now, so who we address this to, that's always a question. Because communication has been a problem, and as I say, I've had to mention that since 2003. So there's a general lack of trust on campus that we're not being heard, okay? Whatever that means for the future. We need leaders that are good at consensus building and morale skills so that we can come together. And so this application of getting input and working together, that is great. We do teach a lot of combined classes. What we're talking about there are not just combined courses, team teaching, but projects that are across interdisciplinary. Okay? And do we have the funds to help this? You see what I mean? Are the humanities left out completely and only the sciences? How do we make this happen? Okay? Then I have a second question, of course. Is the university accounting system and MERC able to handle the uniqueness of some of these projects? Okay? We've been having problems in those areas. Opportunities, that was a very short list. Okay? The encouraging thing on that list was exactly the fact that people were excited about the potential of Marshall University. Okay? Young faculty start out with a lot of enthusiasm. The older faculty, we begin to lose it after you've been having difficulties over a number of years. That potential is very important. That means hope is still alive, that something can happen, and the faculty want to be part of that. Threats, the flexible workload policy remains unfunded. Concerns about, well, actually this time, which I'd not seen before, there were some concerns about the increase of administrative faculty positions. Some people felt this was a threat. Some people felt they were in that position and they were trying to do full-time, both full-time, and they were questioning their ability to do everything well at one time. The salary issue is still definitely a threat. There was a concern about corporate influence on liberal arts education. And there also was a concern about discount department store mentality. That when you need something, you just go and it'll be on the shelf, when it won't have been put on the shelf unless somebody did it. You see what I mean? Do we have the program? Are we producing the people that need to be there? If we're not supporting something, then maybe we're not putting out an education program that we need. Okay? So, we cannot buy our way into national prominence. Okay? You can't pay a fee and get national prominence. We can't just declare ourselves so and it be so. We may get fortuitous publicity, events, but that won't get us national prominence. It gets us publicity. Now, how do we get into national prominence? Remember the old commercial, you have to gain national prominence through the old-fashioned way. You have to earn it. Okay? Those are some of the summaries. I'll do what I did last year. I will send you the comments by email to the faculty members so that you can see what responses we did have. I do invite you to the reception downstairs following this meeting. Dr. Sean Parsons will be playing jazz piano for us, and he is a new faculty member here at Marshall. So remember, we are Marshall, we are the faculty, and we are the lifeblood of Marshall. Thank you very much.